Welcome to Chapter 3. We were talking about supply and demand, where prices come from, the interaction of supply and demand. If you recall, demand actually, a shift in demand can be caused by 5 different factors: a change in income, prices of related goods, a change in tastes, population and demographics, and expected future prices. Let's analyze this with an example, maybe here in Rexburg with a cell phone service, monthly cell phone service. There's our demand and supply curves. Given these two curves, our current market equilibrium would be at $50, where both supply and demand, the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded, both equal 5 units. Now, if we were to assume that there was a change in demand, an increase in demand due to an increase in population, more students have moved into Rexburg, we would note that that demand curve would shift out or to the right. What would happen with this new change in demand to the market? Well, at a $50 price, we would note that the demand, the quantity demanded now, would be 7 units. But the quantity supplied would still be at just 5 units. So 7 customers would show up to buy cell phone service, but only 5 units would be available or be supplied. In order for the market to return to equilibrium, we would have to go to a higher price. We currently have a shortage of 2 units. That higher price would be up at this new level. At $60 with a quantity of 6 units. Notice that as demand pushes out, as you have an increase in demand, the price increases and the quantity demanded would both increase. Let's contrast that to a reduction in demand or a shift downward in demand. Let's assume that there's an article that comes out that suggests that if you use a cell phone, you risk having cancer. That shift in demand would be noted with the whole curve moving to the left or downward. In that event, can you calculate what the situation would be at a $60 price? Well, we still have suppliers willing to supply 6 units at $60, but note where the new demand curve intersects the $60 price line. That would be back at 2 units. So we end up with a surplus of 4 units. There are 6 units supplied, but only 2 units that are demanded at that price level. So how would we get back to an equilibrium? Well, equilibrium is going to have to put pressure, downward pressure on those prices. We note that the new equilibrium point would be here. So price would have to drop from 60 down to 40 units, or down to $40. At $40, we would be back in at equilibrium, where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded, and you would have 4 units bought and sold. All right, let's talk about the supply side for a moment. Remember, with a supply side, the things that will cause that supply curve to shift are changes in prices of the inputs into the product, a technological change, or change in the price of substitutes in production. Those would be substitute raw materials in your production, the number of firms in the market, and the expected future prices. Let's go back to our supply and demand curve at equilibrium at $50 a month and 5 units. Let's assume that some additional cell phone providers move into the Rexburg market. What would that have? What effect would that have on the supply curve? The supply curve would shift out or to the right. Now, currently at a $50 price, what would our situation be in terms of the signal the market would give about supply and demand? At $50, we would have a current supply of 7 units, but only a demand for 5 units. So we would effectively have a surplus of 2 units. 7 units would be available, but only 5 customers would be willing to pay the $50 price. How would the market move back into the new equilibrium? Well, we note that the new equilibrium is at this point, So in order to eliminate that surplus, there would be downward pressure on price. That price would have to move down to $40. At a $40 price, we would end up with 6 units being sold, and we would be back at equilibrium again. Note as the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. So we wouldn't have 7 units, but we would still have more than we would have had at a $50 price. All right, let's look at another example. If a couple of the cell phone stores decided to leave the market, what would be the situation? If the supply curve had shifted to the left or up, what would be the quantity supplied at a $40 price? If you note here, look at the $40 price line. Where does it intersect the new supply curve? It looks like it's going to intersect it at a quantity of 2 units. So the quantity supplied would be 2 at $40. The quantity demanded, however, would be 6. We would note here that you would have a shortage of 4 units. 6 customers would be standing in line, but only 2 units would be available at a $40 price. So how would the market go back to equilibrium, or what we would call the MEQ, market equilibrium? We note that it's at a $60 price with 4 units. As the price is increased to $60, the quantity supplied and demanded would both be equal to 4 units, and that shortage would actually be eliminated. We can eliminate, once again, shortages and surpluses if we allow the price to increase or decrease to eliminate those differences. What I want to talk about now are price controls. Price controls occur when a government authority steps into the market and imposes a maximum price or a minimum price. A maximum price is a price ceiling, and a minimum price is a price floor. Let's see kind of how this might work. Let's go back to our example here, and we're currently at equilibrium at $50 and 5 units. Let's say that some students go to the city of Rexburg and you have the city council pass an ordinance that says the maximum price that can be charged in this market is $40. What would be the situation if the maximum price was at $40? Note that we're below market equilibrium. Look at the $40 price line. Note where it intersects the demand curve. That would be 6 units would be demanded. But where would it intersect the supply curve? The supply curve intersection would occur at 4 units. So what we would have is a shortage of 2 units. The quantity demanded would exceed the quantity supplied. See how that works? All right, let's think about the cell phone providers go back to the city of Rexburg and say, we would like to have a minimum floor of $60 on our pricing. At a $60 minimum price floor, what would the quantity demanded be? Note where $60 intersects the $60 price line, intersects the demand curve. That would indicate 4 units. There would be a demand for 4 units at $60. The supply would be 6 units, however. So we're creating essentially a surplus of 2 units. There would be 2 more units available for purchase at a $60 price than the demand. Only 4 customers would want to purchase at $60, but 6 suppliers would like to provide that. All right, so that is price ceiling and price floor. Thank you.